Aphelisa Service Maswati nge-cyber alalo bendeka ngetebuchwephesha silabe sinaye nje head of the fraud department babe Nicholas Jele atosichazela abantu nje ama cases lasebawabonile nje solo kuqale umnyaka saphenzeke sikhulumisane nabaka Build It enhlangano and babane batabe bane event this weekend eNsingizini lapho khona they'll be giving back to the community, they'll be giving away prizes and gifts to the community yaseNsingizini. Also they'll have 4 soccer teams lapho khona batabe babhadlisha nalethitolo letimbili lokung Build It embabane kanye na Build It enhlangano. Umkhankaso wesithathu lona seloba uqalile since last year lapho bavakashela khona ezombothe emuva kanye nasemaseyisini enhlangano. Leah Mamba from Build It will join us and talk to us about some other community activities the batabe bawenda, such as paying school fees for bantwana labatsingile kuloyo mphakathi sabe sinaye nga 7:30.
Kazi-ke staff princess ikhulumise i-World Read Aloud Day lokulisuke lokufunza out loud lo lenteka-ke njalo ngeminyaka mhla isikhombisa sonje lento-ke elisukwini ngela itolo sifuna nje kubuka losuku njengoba bathi it focuses on celebrating the power of reading aloud, but not just a day dedicated to reading alone, but also to the art and practice of reading aloud, and stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. Even before writing was invented, oral forms of storytelling were the earliest ways of preserving human knowledge, insight, as well as creativity. This day helps us bring this tradition back to reading while promoting literacy. From the National Library Service. Lesifuna kuba ukuthi ngitiphi kakhulu labaqhubutela ukuthi banibana nabo bantu abadzala batifunze njengoba kukuningi besingakufunza etincwadzini, from social issues, from indlela yokukhula emimangweni nalonke nje inhlangothi letingatsinzeka ku sisafunza tincwadzi nasilezwane tasichazela kabanti ngalolusuku nakugabanqa insimbi yesithupha kulesikhathi sanyalo sibuke nje tihloko lethamba embili emaphephandabeni elive.
Asiqale sibuke i-Times of Eswatini. Ansekleto letihamba imbili, no hailstorm relief. Mom, 2 children live in chicken shed, house collapsed, still no help 5 months later. Kanske Utsilo Magesh reported it to Baga NDMA, Namarada Gusho MP Guguta reporter Gubaga NDMA. Kuletinda letihamba imbili, disappointment as sweet balances, one finds 25 emalangeni. Kulenyela hamba imbili, baby mama ordered to pay maintenance and school fees. Kanti Matapa businessman murder, there is a suspect that is wanted by the police. Kulenyela hamba imbili, Pali opening security concern, Deputy Speaker enters with gun.
Nigeria advanced to the final of the Africa Cup of Nations after defeating Bafana Bafana on penalties on Wednesday night, making the biggest headline Temidlalo Lomuhla when Nigeria peep Bafana to AFCON final. Another story, 50 Malangeni to watch Ingwenyama Cup double header. On the last one, Reds contacted Chabi Alonso in November.
As Bogale Tambambili, Eswatini Daily News, Parliament grand opening preparations, speech from the throne expected to set the pace for 2024. Eswatini, among 32 nations gathered in Morocco to tackle development challenges and scabies outbreak, Eswatini advised to be vigilant.
The biggest headline in Temidlalo Eswatini Daily News is still the very same story, Bafana Bafana losing to Nigeria, where Nigeria advanced to the AFCON final. 50 Malangeni again to watch Ingwenyama Cup double header. Kanzige Reds contacted Chabi Alonso in November.
Yeah, ngleto le thamba imbili se dawsa salke for Spain in Zabata Swati.
Let us all partake as the King sets out the government agenda for the next parliamentary session. Be part of our live broadcast as we ensure that you do not miss out as His Majesty delivers the speech from the throne. His Majesty King Eswatini III will officially open the first session of the 12th Parliament on Friday. Eswatini TV will provide rolling coverage of the state event from 9 a.m.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sende ukukhicita lokusembili.
Asimze simukele nadidi indzaba. Silo samhlaba sibheke ukuthi sivule ngokomthetho sigaba sekucala seParliament el-12 ngalesihlanu. Imalungiselelo alelanga lelimcoka lokuvula kweParliament sekasecopheleni lisetulu.
Kutawuthi ngalesihlanu libhube zilibhodle uma ingwenyama ivulwa komthetho sigaba sekucala seParliament el-12. Lona msebenzi ubheke ukuthi ubusiswe nakuba khona kwendlovukazi Mhlekazi. Emalungiselelo ke alelanga sekavele asecophelelweni lelisetulu. Kwatise ukuthi limcoka njengoba kulapho ingwenyama itawunika emalunga eParliament umkhombandlela wekusebenta. Loku emalungiselelo sekasezingeni leliphakeme emalangeni lendlulile bokuba nemicimbi lebe ukhomba lizinga lekulungiselela pheceleti rehearsals kanye nemihlangano nabo bonke labathinzekako ekwenteni lo msebenzi ukuthi ube impumelelo. Lo muhla ke bekukathe kulilanga lokugcina lemcimbi wekukala wona emalungiselelo. Kuvulwa kweParliament ivulwa ingwenyama kusho kucala kweminyaka weParliament lobitwa ngesigaba thide. Umsakazo wethombe utawukuthulela lona msebenzi wekuvula kwesigaba sekucala seParliament el-12 bukhome ngalwesihlanu. Edindzabeni kubika Pholile Maziya eParliament.
Umhlonishwa Ndvunankulu Russell Dlamini sewukhuthaza onke amatiko ahulumende lathinzekako ekulungiseleni kuvulwa kwesigaba sekucala seParliament el-12 ukuthi ende siciniseko sokuthi kude lophunyukako elangeni langa lesihlanu lekulanga lokuvulwa kweParliament inkosi Mswati wesithathu.
Njoba ke ngalwesihlanu kubheke ukuthi ihlale totimbili tindlu eParliament ijoint sitting ngebitwa ke ngisosilo semhlaba ingwenyama. Njoba kulanga lekubheke ukuthi ingwenyama ivule isigaba sekucala seParliament el-12. I-joint sitting ke ibitwa ngisosilo uma ngabe sitavula iParliament noma ngabe ke tindlu totimbili teParliament kukhona lapho tingavumelani khona ngemthetho lotsite bese ke silo sesibita leyo joint sitting. Umhlonishwa Ndvunankulu ke lo mhla litholile lithuba lekusafika lapha eParliament atawubona ukuthi ngabe malungiselelo ahamba njani malungiselelo awo lo msebenzi lomkhulu wangalesihlanu. Nankulu ke uchazele ngumabhalano weParliament Benedict Caba ukuthi lokungenani malungiselelo sekeme ku 95% lokusho ukuthi cishe nje konke sekume ngemumo kuthi lo msebenzi ke ungaba khona ngalesihlanu. Lokwendiwa kwamanje kulungisa indzaba bomakhi ukuthi nanato tibe setime ngemumo njengoba labo lababukete kuphepha bachazile ukuthi akusisigaba insimbi yesine ngalesine nsambama kube konke sekume ngemumo. Nankulu ke bese kukhuthatha ke onke amatiko lathinzekako kulamalungiselelo ukuthi akabambe kucine lapho abambe khona kude kube bede lokonakalako ngalesihlanu.
Naloyo lonike umsebenzi sale yabambisisa nibakethiwe ukuthi kungaphunyuki ngakuye. Siyathanda kubonga ke ukuthi laba labahola lo msebenzi sibahloniphebe kunene ukuze ukuthi umsebenzi uhambe kahle. Ngoba na unikwe ukuthi uhole lo msebenzi wena ubukathi ngonletinyenti lockdown si nase basiconzisa sivele sivume nje silalele sende lokuthi diyasikwenda. So kwekugcina ke ukuthi ngicele ukuthi silithandazele lolu suku.
Izaba-ke lenkulu-ke simo selitulu njengoba besimo selitulu bachazile ukuthi ngaLwesihlanu litabe lishisa kakhulu kanti-ke bheka ukuthi ngemva kwemadina bese kuba netimvula letawuhamba ticine tifana njengetimvula letitholakele etindaweni etiphakeme elangeni langemsombuluko. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV ngilingithini Gule kunasimuva Shongwe sikalobamba.
Imvanete mfumvo umhlonishwa owenqimalo ithi kulungisa indzaba yekushoda kwabothishela kuletinye tinhlelo litiko litawususa abothishela lokubonakala ukuthi banyenti kuletinye tikolwa bafakwe kuleto letishoda ngabo. Imvana ithi nehlelo le-performance management system litawusita kucatulula letinkinga.
Njengoba litiko leti-70 tembuso lihlela imali etigisi letinge-65 temalangeni kucasha ngalokuphelele bothishela labanye labayinkulungwane labasebenta ngetivumelwano tesikhashana. Indvuna yetiko letemfundo umhlonishwa owenqumalo ithi litiko litawusukumisa umsebenzi wokubuka futhi tikolo letinabothishela labanyenti kunalabo labadzingekile bese batfunyelwa kuleto letite kahle bothishela liphindze libukete nendzaba yemali yesikolwa kuthuthukisa nekucinisa lihlangosi lwetemfundo.
Chaze ukuthi kuletinye tikolwa banengi ba-overstaffed nako lokho ufuna sikubone sibadeploye kahle labo tishela bayikhwale i-report vele lelo ithinzako nje leyasho siletinye tikolwa and vele kuletinye tikolwa bominister babuyile bangitshela ukuthi hey kulesikole lesi bashito kusibona babanengi and nalokucasheka kwabo labo tishela kufana kusekubuke because bukhanza ukuthi mhlambe bamekisatishela kulesinye isikole lokukhanza sakathingakali. So lokho sekutholile ukuthi hey lapha labo tishela nje nasifika le kubo bathi hey mina ngathi ngiyakhala lapha ngathi hey njengoba liseninika tishela lengamdzingi so konke lokho kutafuna vele sikubuke sikulungiswe kube khwela abantu batawubuketa ukuthi le mali le school fees disesekahle yini. Malaba ibotishela bayakhala kuse lapha le education ibulawa ngokuthi sekude le funding le proper lokuthi sithwele quality education. So satoba cela ke labo lelo badlalelo lisibukele bese liletha ke ma recommendation bese ngiyamikisa ke cabinet.
Indvuna iphindze yaveta ukuthi leli tiko litawusukumisa nelibandla litawuletha tincomo ngetinhlelo letingasukunyiswa nguye hulumende kude temfundo delive tibe ngileti Kusile naletibamba emazinga emhlaba. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika Samkel khoza nginasikhumbuzo Dlamini eMbabane.
Imvana yelitiko letekuvakashana tindzaba temvelo umhlonishwa Jane Tsimelane ithi live nalo lisebentela ukuthi ligcine linemathuluzi nehlelo lokuhlola simo selitulu lokusezingeni lelisetulu. Imvana beyikhuluma ngesikhathi ivakashele emahovisini elibandla letangoma telitulu.
Indvuna yetiko letekuvakashana nemvelo umhlonishwa Jane Mkhonda uvakashele emahhovisi elibandla letangoma telitulu eMbabane ngemsombuluko lapho afika wakhonjiswa khona nemishina nendlela ekuhlola nekuhumusha simo selitulu. Indvuna ithi kumcoka ke ukuthi live nalo lihambisane nalamanye emave libe nemishina lesezingeni lelisetulu ekuhlola sona simo selitulu lapho aphindze waveta khona ukuthi kunesidingo sekulungisa lesakhiwo salelibandla lesingekho nani esimeni lesikahle.
Silive nathi sinebudlelwane nemave langesheya Bongilandi la nabo basibambisa khona nathi ke siyakhona lokho ukuthi sithole simo sethu selitulu sakangwane ngekuhamba kwesikhathi nathi sitagcina sifikile ngoba sisho sesilungu sithi Rome was not built in a day. Nathi ke sitawushaya kahle sitawugcina sifikile la umhlaba usifuna sifike khona. Hulumende unetinini akasebenzi yedvana kuba nato tinini nathi sitawuphindze siphume siye kito tinini tite umbambisa hulumende ukuthi kungasebendeka kanjani kangcono kunalokho.
Umcondzisi welibandla letangoma telitulu Duduzile Nhlengethwa uchazele indvuna ukuthi live nalo liyetama njengoba sekakhona nemathulusi lahambelana nekugucuka kwesimo selitulu pheceleti climate change models. Lelibandla litawuchubeka liceceshwe ngawo kute live nalo likhone kubona tehlakalo uma tita. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika Samkel khoza seMbabane.
Imvana yetemafa Neil Rackenberg ithi hulumende uyayisebenta indzaba yekucinisekisa ukuthi tinkampani takhe tiyakhona kwakha imali kute lidlale indima lebanti ukuthuthukisa umnotfo welive. Imvana beyichaza kabanti ukuthi uhulumende sewuhambe kanganani kwenda lokwanconywa libhange lemhlaba iWorld Bank lapho beleluleka khona uhulumende ukuthi aqinisekise ukuthi leti nkampani tiyakhona kutakhela imali tingagcini nje ngekuniketwa nguhulumende emaphakelo. Azike ngalokunye tilishumi tikhalo lesetifakiwe ebandleni lekwendlulisela tikhalo etiphathelene netemabhizinisi nemithelo ebandleni Revenue Appeals Tribunal. Lokuvetwe indvuna yetemafa Neil Reichenberg nayichaza ukuthi leli bandla lisebenta kanjani kusukela licalile eminyakeni lophelile. Umkhicido wenyama yengulube kuleli wehle nga-12% ngemnyaka wa 2022 nawucathaniswa neminyaka wa 2021. Lokucukethwe ngumbiko welitiko letekuhlela umnotfo nentuthuko lobukati inhlangothi etehlukene temnotfo lomnyaka wa 2023.
Ngekusho kombiko welitiko letekuhlela umnotfo nentuthuko weminyaka wa 2023 lapho lisebenzisene nelibhange lelikhulu kuleli iCentral Bank of Eswatini lapho bekubukwa kusebenta kwetinhlangothi letehlukene nemthelela wato emnothweni welive. Eluhlangothini lomkhicido wenyama yengulube umkhicido wenyama yengulube wehle nga-12.0% ngeminyaka wa 2022 njengoba umkhicido wehle waya phansi kusuka ku-2,225 tons ngeminyaka wa 2021 kuya ku-1.958 tons. Lokwehla kwalomkhicido kokubangwe kukhula kwekudla kwatoke tingulube lokwenteke kusilabanye bafuyi bayekele ukufuya tingulube njengoba kudla kwato sekumba ecolo. Kwaseke kubabete inyama yengulube lengenako eveni ngaleso sikhathi. Kanti-ke tindzabeni temkhicido welubisi lwetinkomo lona-ke lume ku-7,294 kanti-ke tinkomo telubisi betingu-5,302 ngeminyaka wa 2022. Lokukhomba-ke kwehla nga-7.9 na 1.83% ngenxa yetizatfu letinengi. Emazinga ekushisa lakasetulu eveni ikakhulukazi yehlobo athikamete etshani abanga netifo tsite lokube nemthelela lomubi impela kutoke tinkomo telubisi nemkhicido welubisi yeveni. Nekulula-ke kwesikhathi selihlobo kwente kusumkhicido welubisi wenkomo iyinye ube ngu-8 liters lusuku lulunye lekungaphansi kwetarget lengu-10 to 15 liters elilanga ebusika lapho khona bekuba ngu-17 liters lusuku lulunye. Kushisa-ke lokwecile nanako kwente kutsi tinkomo tingemithi kamelula njengoba kwemitsa kwato kube ngu-50% kusuka ku-80% lobhekekile. Nekudula-ke kwekudla kwatoke tinkomo nanako ngilesinye sizatfu lesento kutsi umkhicido wehle. Umkhicido welubisi-ke ube ku-20.1 million kiloliters lokukhomba kwehla nga-10.7 lokungu-22.5 million kweminyaka wanga-2021. Endzabeni kubika Giyani Msibi ngisembabane.
Baningi kakhulu besifundza sakahoho bathikameteke kakhulu ngesikhathi kunesiphepo ngemsombuluko. Mabhalane lomkhulu etiko letekulima Sydney Semelane uthi balitiko banelithemba lekuthi isivuno salonyaka sitawuba ngcono kuneminyaka lophelile kepha ngathi bakhe phansi ngoba lesiphepo sishiye umonakalo lomkhulu.
Eminyakeni lophelile live lahlaselwa kushisa lokumatima kanzi lonyaka esikhatsini lesifana neminyaka lophelile live lihlaselwe timvula letimatima letishiye umonakalo etindzaweni letiningi eveni ikakhulu kubongina madvolo nakubolobamba. Mabhalane lomkhulu etikweni letekulima Sydney Semelane uthi lokumoshakala kwembila kungahle kube nemthelela lomubi esikalini sesivuno lekubhekeke ukuthi live libe naso lekubukeka kwangathi siyachubeka siyehla kusuka eminyakeni wa 2022.
Iripoti lesiyitfolako ayisiyo nani lenhle. Kahoho umonakalo omningi kakhulu. Kahoho kulabe kunelithemba lokuthi cha umbila lomningi utawuchamuka ngakhona ngoba timvula tibe khona lana litulu waba muhle umbila emasimini. Manje-ke kwase kuthi-ke ligcoba-ke leli tulu la ushaya-ke la uphundla-ke umbila wonke. Unfortunately liwuthola lo mbila usengakakhiphi tibhuluja. Kube lo mbila bese ukhiphe leli bhuluja mhlawumbe belitawuba khona lithemba lokuthi cha utawuvuka. Kodwa-ke lesikunakako nje kokuthi vele balimele kakhulu balimi endzaweni letifana nabo nginamadvolo nabo matsheni khona ngala kahoho. nakhona ke la ucala khona hoho la kalobamba umonakalo omkhulu emasimini ebantu vele kwaba kubi kakhulu. Timbili tinhlangothi teku-addressa i-climate change kuba nanakulo kuthiwa i-mitigation kuphindze futhi kube nanakulo kuthiwa i-adaptation. Le adaptation isho ukuthi timo leti lesingeke sisakhona ukuthi ntshintshe. Le mitigation isho ukuthi sivimbela ukuthi ingachubeki le nto leyendeke.
Simelane uchubeke wathi nangabe lo mbila bowusesemncane ungakashakadi balimi abawuyekele ngoba utawuvuka kanzi nangabe bosowushakadile bangacalela phansi kepha kuya ngekuthi ukuyiphi indzawo ngoba letinye tindzawo kulesikhathi lesi sekulunga emabhontshisi ikakhulu kuleto letibandzako. Lo bikako etindzabeni Eswatini TV uphokuhle Dlamini titfombe nguGiyani Msibi eMbabane.
Tangomate litulu tithi kutawube kunetimvula letihambisana nekuthuma lokubi ngelanga lesihlanu lokungahle kube siphepho. Lokhu kuvetwe ngisangoma selitulu Sydney Lukhele lovetile ukuthi lesimo selitulu sangalesihlanu singahle sifane naleso sangemsombuluko lesishiye emakhaya langetulu kwelikhulu asikabedekile.
Kwanyalo lesimo selitulu sikhomba ukuthi la Ntsambama kusukela nje ngabo 2 kuchubeke kuye kubo 6 kutabe kunemvula lehambisana nako kuduma. Kwatiseke ukuthi litabe lifuthumele ngako ke kutabe futhi kunemsingalo banzako lotabe wendlula. Kwanyalo kusikhomba ukuthi kutaba naleyo mvula letacishe ifana nanayi lebe khona ngemsombuluko le tindzaweni letinengi uthole ukuthi bese seyidala umonakalo. Kwanyalo sisabona lokho kodwa ke njengoba simo selitulu siye sibe ngileso lesiba ndawusebenzisa igama lesilungu lelithi accurate naselisonzelele lona. Kusho ukuthi sisenelanga lakusasa so ukuthi sichubeke siyibuke lesimo sangalesihlanu. Kodwa kwanyalo vele kunemvula lephekeletelwa kuduma futhi lesakhomba ukuthi itaba nemonakalo kuletinye tindzawo. Nangathi nje asesibuke la kutakukhombisa ukuthi ngalo lesihlanu kube sekuzivetela njengoba kubonakala la kuzivetela lo kushisa lokutabe khona. Leli bhande leli sigatheke ukuthi lifuceleke lingene la kithi eSwatini bese seyithola ukuthi naye umsebenzi lo wendekako kalobamba so yathinzeka ngenxa yalemvula letabe ikhona. Ngoba nasibuka lemimoya ukuthi lapha etulu iyalifuca yini leli tulu ukuthi lingene kithi. Siyayibona vele iyafuceka iyangena ekhathi eSwatini. Aho-ke sigatheke ukuthi kube kuyangathi bekutathi ngaleti khathi tanzambama umsebenzi ube loya ngasemaphethelweni. Kodwa-ke sisenelanga nakusasa sitawukhuluma sesibona tutane kakhulu lilanga nakusasa. Langa lesihlanu angisho kanjalo.
Ucwaningo lolwendiwe inhlangano ye-Women Unlimited lukhomba ukuthi sisetulu sibalo sokuhlukubeteka ngekwecansi kwabafundi bamanyuvesi kuleli. Inhlangano ihlanganise tinhlangano letibuke tindzaba tekuhlukubeteka kuleli kanye nabafundi benyuvesi yaseSwatini kubuka ukuthi kungacedwa njani ukuhlukubeteka kwabafundi ngekwecansi.
Umcondzisi wenhlangano i-Women Unlimited Vimbai Kapurura ucele ukuthi tinhlangano tibambisane tilalele abafundi bemanyuvesi njengoba kuyacaca ukuthi kunengohlukubeteka ngetelicansi lababhekana nako basafunza abafundi bemanyuvesi. Uthi uyethemba ukuthi kukhulumisana ngokuhlukubeteka ikakhulukazi ngetelicansi kubafundi kutawubavula emehlo abafundi batati netinhlobo tekuhlukubeteka.
This initiative is going to focus on preventing sexual harassment. So it's going to bring a lot of education and awareness on what sexual harassment is all about. Because the reality is some people don't even know what sexual harassment is. It comes in different forms. So this is what we are coming to the university, educating our students on what it is and how they can go about reporting such cases to seek for justice. When we designed our project, we were also following some studies that were done within this tertiary institution, particularly by Dr. Shabalala, and this has actually driven us to come up with an innovative initiative to see how best we can work around reducing sexual harassment within the campus.
Uthi wonke umuntu unenzima langayidlala ekubavikeleni bafunzi wacela-ke ukuthi inhlangano tibambisane uthi batawuchubeka baye nakulamanye amanyuvesi nemakolishi kuvikeleke bonke bafunzi. Etindzabeni kubeka Giyane Msibi kunaphiwa kuhle Dlamini sisekwaluseni.
Amaphoyisa aseMbabane asaphenya kufa komvota yakacobonga esitwashini eMbabane leshaywe emtimbeni wonke yafa ngolabanye labangadiwa lemvota ifena iselashwa esibhedlela lesikole eMbabane.
Ngekusho kombiko lochamuka kulochumanisa emaphoyisa nesive senior superintendent Phindile Vilakati kusithe mhla 13 enyangeni leSetulo ngetithuba tabokora past 6 ekseni indoda eneminyaka lengu-37 weminyaka yasesithwashini kaqobonga eMbabane kuthiwa ishaywe ngedibhakela nangaloku limatako emtimbeni wonke lebeseke iphuthunyiswa esibhedlela lesikhulu saseMbabane lapho khona ifike yasishiya emhlabeni iselashwa. Emaphoyisa-ke asachubeka neluphenyo kulabathinzeka kunalena ndzaba. Kanzi ngakulokunye mhla 13 kuleSetulo ngetithuba tensimbi yesihlanu Nzambama kuthiwa emantombazana amabili lebeyineminyaka lelishumi nale lebeyineminyaka lesiphohlongo bacwilile ngesikhathi babhukusha emfuleni lowatiwa ngeNovonye kaphumla mcashi kulela laselubonjeni. Kanzi mhla 13 kuleSetulo enzaweni yasesiphofaneni indoda eneminyaka lengu-43 yasenzaweni yaseMagagasi eSt Philips kuthiwa-ke iboshiwe yabekwa licala lekubulala njengoba kusolakala ukuthi ishaye umkayo libeka neminyaka lengu-38 lekuthiwa-ke imshaye ngento lecinile enhloko bakhona-ke enzaweni yakumagagasi kuthiwa-ke lona wesifazane ubese uyasishiya emhlabeni ngenxa-ke yetinhlungu latholile asashaywa ngulona wekunene. Kanzi kusithe mhla tisihlanu kuleSetulo enzaweni yakugege ngensimbi yesikhombisa ekuseni amadoda lamane aboshiwe abekwa licala ngekuthinzeka ekufeni kwelijaha lelineminyaka leli-17 lase-South Africa enzaweni yaseKhongothala lapho khona kuthiwa ayishaye ngetinswati netinduku emtimbeni wonke basenzaweni yasehlala kahle. Lamadoda-ke laboshiwe yindoda lena-50 weminyaka yasendiva lena 57 weminyaka yakhona yendiva lenye lena 57 noma-ke 55 weminyaka yasePolodini nalenye-ke lena 35 weminyaka yasenhlala kahle. Lo mbiko uchamuka kulochumanisa emaphoyisa nesive senior superintendent Phindile Vilakati.
Kwezemidlalo sekunekushayisana komthetho emkhathini kwenhlangano lengamele ibhola emhlabeni iFIFA kanye nenhlangano lengamele idlalisa ibhola eveni yeSwatini Football Association mayelana nesikhathi sekuvalwa kokuthenga nekuthengiswa kwabadlali kulomnyaka. Ngekusho komthetho weFIFA emacembu alapha kaNgwane asavunywa sikhathi ukuthi angachubeka athenge aphindze athengise abadlali kude kube ngilesihlanu kuleli viki. Kanti umthetho we-Eswatini Football Association uthi kwavalwa ngalesihlanu evikini leliphelile.
Inhlangano lengamele ibhola emhlabeni njalo ngeminyaka iba nesikhathi sekuthenga nekuthengiswa kwebadlali. Kanti kulo mnyaka loSetulo umbiko wayo iFIFA uveta ukuthi ilifastelo lekuthenga kanye nekuthengiswa kuqale mhla ka-8 enyangeni yaBhimbidvwane kude-ke kuphele mhla ka-9 kule nyanga leSetulo. Lo mbiko lokhishwe inhlangano lengamele kudlalisa ibhola eveni yeSwatini Football Association uthi kuthenga kanye nekuthengiswa kwebadlali kwavalwa evikini leliphelile ngalesihlanu mhla 2 kule nyanga leSetulo. Lokushiya umbuto lomkhulu ekutheni engabe ngisiphi isikhathi lesingiso lesingasebenziswa kunamacembu. Akhuluma nalo msakato lokhulumela lenhlangano Muzi Radebe uchazile ukuthi lo mthetho labanawo labawulandzelako uveta ukuthi kwavalwa evikini leliphelile futhi nayo inhlangano lengamele ibhola emhlabeni bayibikela ukuthi sekuvaliwe eveni. Radebe uphindze wachaza ukuthi lo mthetho labawulandzelako wekuvalwa kwekuthengwa nekuthengiswa kwebadlali bakhulumisana nayo inhlangano yakaFIFA kanye nanawo emacembu alapha ekhaya. Lokhu kushiya umbuto lomkhulu ekutheni engabe emacembu akuleli kumele ende njani. Kumave abomakhelwane lafaka ekhathi iMozambique, iLesotho kanye naseNingizimu Afrika. Kwalandzelwa sikhathi lebesibekwe ngiyo iFIFA ekutheni kuthenga kanye nekuthengiswa kwebadlali kuvaliwe. Umbiko uhlanganiswa nguFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Umqeqeshi weqembu leZulwini United Mpumelelo Ngwenya uthi kunemthelela lobakhona bangabe utawudlala nelicembu linye kabili ngekulandzelana. Ngwenya bekakhuluma ngesikhathi iqembu lakhe lisalungiselela kutholana itulu nelicembu leMbabane Highlanders endzebeni yeNgwenyama Cup lesesigabeni sama-quarter finals.
Kule mpelasonto kubuyela imidlalo yeIngwenyama Cup bese ingene esigabeni sema-quarter finals lapho munye wemidlalo utawubona lecembu leMbabane Highlanders itholana etulu nelicembu leZulwini United. Lamacembu lamabili abuya kuyawutholana etulu endzebeni ye-MTN Premier League lapho khona iMbabane Highlanders yanqoba lo mdlalo ngeligoli linye ecanzeni. Umqeqeshi welicembu leZulwini United Mpumelelo Ngwenya uthi ukhona umthelela lobakhona nangabe udlala licembu linye kabili kulandzelana.
Yes, vele iba khona le distraction nasewati ukuthi I'm playing them again. Mhlawumbe someone is sitting on 2 yellow cards. Udlala uyati bamba ngoba imcoka le ya game. Akusi tournament lo mane uvele nje kuyo noma nini. It's a quarter final first for some of us. So mhlawumbe angisho ukuthini but kuba khona lo mthelela lana sekunale draw. So as they are working to build their brand, angeke bese simane siyaphuma nje ku tournament. We need to fight there. Sibasite nabo phela ukuthi kulele bakwendako outside ukuthi le team bonakale inkulu nale performance ibe ngcono. So we're giving 100% nangale Ngwenyama Cup because lokhu kahle ngako nasidlala yona simile ngala ngakuleague. So nalama breaks akusinto lesithanza. We're going there to compete next week.
Dumsani Makhanya weMbabane Highlanders uthi lo mdlalo utawulungiselela sibili.
Game 2 it's next weekend. Ngicabanga ukuthi now ngabuka kahle it's a tough game even today. Now next week we are expecting a very tough game because indvodza ngeke ivume kuwa kabili. So we will prepare thoroughly for this game, for the coming game.
Lo mdlalo utawudlalwa ngelisonto enkundleni yasemavuso kaManzini nakushaya insimbi yesine eNzambama. Itindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Themkosi Mavimbela, umbiko uhlanzwe nguFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Naledoda imidlalo siyadiphetha hadinza badevu sitibahlo etamakethe sitawube sichubeke.
Renewal of TV licenses for 2024 is now open. Here is a quick reminder. A viewer's TV license costs 180 emalangeni per device. Other accessories such as decoders and set-top box cost 50 emalangeni per device. For traders and repairers, TV license costs 300 emalangeni per business area. And now, to pay your TV license, use these following methods. You can use MTN Mobile Money with the number 76222000 or dial *007 *3 *7#, or you can use Eswatini Imali. You can pay our TV license at any post office in the country. Another option is you can use any Nedbank branch using our TV license account number 119900430037. Don't forget, when paying for your viewer's TV license, reference with your PIN at all times. And when paying for a retailer TV license, reference with your TIN at all times. For more information, call us on 7802-4543 or 34050163 or 34020879. And you can send us a WhatsApp message on 762222000.
ujala amasondo amahle kunathi lesa
sabatandi ukuthi njengalokho
sifile sive sikhulume
.36 minutes after 6 mayutsolo nhleli nathi ehlelweni sifuna ukukhulumisa indzaba ya World Read Aloud Day lebe ikhona ke esukwini la itori lisuke lifuna kufocusa kakhulu in the power of reading aloud, but not just kufunza kuphela kakhulu indzaba ukuthi vele kupractice le art yekufunza aloud. Sibonile ke eminyakeni stories were being passed down from generation to generation through reading aloud. Asamukele Nelsiwe Zwane, she's an assistant librarian under the Eswatini Library Service. Welcome to the program, Nelsiwe. Engabe nje kusichazela kabanti ngalolu suku lolu ukuthi njengoba sikubona ukuthi ngiyakukhuthata kufunza, but hayi lokufunza ukuthi nje ngiyatfunzela njengoba nangifunza iTimes ukuthi ngifunzele engqondweni, lokufunza aloud lo mkhuba loyo niukhuthatela nje.
Sibonga kakhulu. Kufunza aloud kumcabanga ukuthi ikakhulu for umntwana lomncane siye sithanze ukuthi umntwana asesemncane akhule vele anale culture yekufunza, si instilla le culture yekufunza at a tender age kulaba mfana bethu labasesebancane. Sendela ukuthi umntwana akuthanze vele lokufunza, because as ufunzela umntwana uyakudevelopa lokhu kuthanza as you act leyo ncwadi leso story, as usi uba nale imagination, abe nale curiosity naye yokuthanza lokusafunza.
Asikhulume ngalolu suku ke itolo bekunguye vele World Read Aloud, and I'm looking at my own research ngiyabona ukuthi amavela ngetulu kwalalikhulu engcenye nalangemashumi lasikhombisa over 170 countries do recognize lo suku lo njengelanga lelimcoka. Engabe kuba ngimaphi ama activities laba khona kulolu suku?
Okay, ngaleli suku leli siyayevele si-encourage, siyesifuna lokho ukuthi sendele activity yekufunza uvakale. Itolo nje sineSimbabane Library, sihambile saya e-Children's Ward lapha eMbabane Government Hospital, safike sabafunzela abamfana, sabese siyabaphaka netincwajana, bakuthanzile kakhulu such that bacelile ukuthi asikwende nje kube imvo le regular.
Yeah.
So sizamile ke nokuya kuma outpatients ethu bamfana labe bakhona lapha nabo sazama kubafunzela. They were interested, besicabanga ukuthi ngibona batawuba nekuthi nje sijahile, but bafunzile kwaba kahle impela. Ema libraries ethu ke lamanye Manzini nje bekaye kuma social centers la ka around Manzini nabo ke bahambile bafunza, bafunzela abamfana. Ngicabanga ukuthi nje siyendile le activity yaba a bit of a success ngoba besisayicala cishe siyicele kakhulu nasi last year kuba involved kuyo kakhulu. So this year sihambile siphumile. The other libraries went to schools, la amanye ama libraries ngela lamadolobheni went to schools, lamanye bawendile lama activities abo khona la ngekhathi ma libraries.
Ngiyatibuta nje ngoba ngiyabona lo ukuthi kukhuleni kwethu, even history has it indzaba ukuthi even before writing was invented, the best way to preserve my stories was through kuwakhuluma, reading aloud, or rather speaking aloud. Engabe sibubone kangakanani bumcoka bakuluke ukuthi sithi read aloud lapha ekhaya kangwane, particularly uma sibuka just tindzaba ukuthi kufunza tackles a lot of issues from race, religion, social issues, cishe nje tonke vele tinhlaka setikhona letitsinza umuntu ekukhuleni kwakhe nasekuphatheni nasendlela laphatha ngayo. Engabe letincwadi niba strategic invele nisake ubafunzela labantwana nekuthi nanabo bakhona ukudifunzela?
Okay. Okay, yes, siyaba strategic on picking up the books lesibafunzela dona. Siyesifuna vele incwadi letaba lesson thide, letaba impact thide kulabo bamfana. Siqhubeka ke se library siyezame ukuthi on some days sizame lokubafundzisa nabo lokuthi umntwana akwadi ukufunzela, akhone ukuthi agcina atifundzele. So we encourage them ngokuthi at times masise library siyabaniketa lelithuba lokuthi namhla ke asasifunzelwe nini kungabi ngisiphela lesifundzako. So yes ngicabanga ukuthi kuyabasita kakhulu indzaba ye read aloud. Ku social impact ngicabanga ukuthi i-information imcoka vele, so as ufunza umntwana ugaina some information and leyo information leyo kukhona la tagcina ayisebenzisa khona.
Yeah, kwaba ne-study lesi interesting lengastablisha kuso Nelsiwe. Study lesi khulumisa indzaba ukuthi speaking skills are deteriorating amongst many people in the universe, not just, you know, like it's kuphela emhlabeni wonke jikelele kuthiwa bantu sebede i-culture yekucoca, because most of the times tikhanda silati incingweni, we are just reading internally asisakhoni lokukhuluma. So bumcoka bekuthi ufunze aloud bumcoka kangakanani now engcenye to the receiver, because njengoba usho ukuthi nifundzele bantfwana itolo, engabe yini le inculcator kulabantfwana ekuthenini engcenye nanabo batawukhula bakhone ukukhuluma thina sikhule kunabo public speaking etikolweni tethu, kusifundzisa lo ukuthi sikhone ukukhuluma firstly with confidence, that's very important. Phindze kube nendzaba ukuthi lokukhuluma kwethu kube coherent kulandzeleleke, nalo ukuthi nje nale vocabulary khanza ukuthi seyakhwala expanda ibe extensive, sekuyakusita lokho ngisho sawufuna imisebenzi sekusita nje indzawo letiningi you stand out. The question then becomes, what are all these skills that umuntu ought to learn or benefit ngekuthi afunze aloud, not just lokufunda nje ukuthulela?
Okay, ngiyabonga kakhulu. Ngicabanga ukuthi so washito lamaningi akhona. One of them really le ukuthi si encourage ukuthi umntwana naye akhone ukufundzela aloud is because sifuna bona ukuthi bantwana bangasabi, they must not shy away, babe ne confidence. We are posting that kubantwana. Also siposta yona i-grammar kubantwana, because as umntwana afunza uyafunza ufunza emagama lamasha, aphindze afunze nje kwenda ku-constructor i-sentence properly. So kuba kuningi lama benefits, but nje lokumcoka vele siposta le confidence kumntfwana ukuthi umntfwana akhone ukusukumela, akhone kufunza angesabi.
Yeah, kunenzaba ye ma-enunciation of words, some of these issues were very critical kids. It's not just cool as shaywa ukuthi hayi leligama lelike I'll enunciate kahle, I'll pronounce kahle. Kwanza ukuthi you're getting a beating from that. Yes, times have changed, bantfana abasashaywa kunemagama lokhanza ukuthi saka trick bo adequate, lo myeso adequate yabona. So seligama lelihlukile lelo, which is very important, especially if uta communicator kubantu labanengi la kangwane siyaye now butumbana utawufunza grade 1 athi grade 5 sithi asocedzile, you are the next prime minister of the country, the next minister of the country. And these are people kanza ukuthi they speak publicly most of the time. So I really do want to appreciate lemsebenzi leniendako kuleto tinhlangothi leto. Engcenye kubuta nje ukuthi ngabe nani conductor an eye test a library embabane, sibuke nje embabane kwanyalo sitabe sesiyakhuluma ngcenye ukuthi live lonke lime kanjani nasenibuka ke naletinye tinhlangothi. Le spirit sekuthi bantfana bete e-library batawufunza engcenye ninama programs esiphindze bafunze kanye out loud, but maybe nje the spirit of reading alone engabe sisesekhona bantfana bayeta.
Okay, no, bantfana bayeta sheme library. They have cards because sis encourage ukuthi umntwana abe nekhadi atokhona kuboleka incwadi ayotifunzelana kahle ekhaya. Yes, basayisebenzisa i-library kakhulu bantfana. They do ama researches abo. We also have computer lab nje le bantfana where they do a research at emsebenzi yabo yesikolo. So I believe library still has a lot of impact kubantfwana bethu, and we do encourage them ukuthi baqhubeke bawasebenzise ema-libraries because akusibo bonke abantwana laba khonako ukuthi babe ne-access yabo internet, and that is where we come in. Siyaba provider with that mahala. So they do come through by research imisebenzi yabo, because nanyalo at a tender age bantwana nje base primary, so they are already doing ama researches abo online. So siya encourage kakhulu ukuthi ima-libraries abawasebenzise, se encourage nebatali ukuthi bantwana babakhuthade ukuthi baye library bayojoyina babe ma-membership, so that they can have access to lama services ethu.
Yeah. Let number tsafana. Since school we spent all our time at the library. I would read. I was very into American magazines, and I remember Gunaba American Corner Lab. I would read a lot of Sports Illustrated magazines, and because in Tanza, NBA, and that's the only place they've been corner kubona the latest developments around leso sportless. And I would say ukuthi kwangisita kakhulu ngoba bestikhanza nasifunza lapha sifunza aloud, by the way, with my friends lebezidlala nabo leo basketball. Most of the grammar, if they say extensive beyond our age, one could say that. So kubuta nje ukuthi ingabe le appetite isafana yini. Mina nje nangibuka ukuthi nasikhula thina bekusuna kuthi mce insimbi esikolweni siphuma siye library.
Okay, kukhuluma liqiniso ayisafanani kahle hle, but sisesenabo labamfana la sesibanayo le ngapha ekufunza, and siyabelieve ukuthi for as long as sisabakhuthaza labamfana emakhaya nasetikolweni, but awugcine bayabona lesidingo nale need yokuthi baye lema libraries bayothola lema information la relevant.
Ngabe bafunza yini in groups? Because another thing is, I think I've seen, without maybe a shade of a doubt, in Zabea ukuthi kufunza in groups, it also creates a community empathy based on whatever story that is being read. If funza maybe a fictional story, then now go said a level of empathy is being, you know, grown and nurtured. You are reading also as a community, siphinde sibe libumbano. Niyakubona yini lokho nokuthi nik encourage kangakanani ukuthi nabafika kube khona nje maybe leni babeka babesigungu bafunze kanye kanye noma nibafunzele nini?
Okay, siyabonga. We do have ema activities la kanjalo whereby siyazama ukuthi sibagroupe and let them just read bona bopana and discuss leyo ncwadi babopana. Okay, siyabasita lapha nalapha, but siba encourage ukuthi babe nawo lawo ma groups babopha nje. Batifunzele bopana, sorry. Batifunzele bopana bakhone ukuthi bakhulume bona bopana nje and discuss that book. So we do have activities la kanjalo.
Inzaba yabo spelling ngoba kuphinze siyabona ukuthi kuthelelana nabo spelling, sikhulelana nabo spelling bee, and I know ukuthi kusesekhona. I've seen some of the competitions la khona lapha eveni. Ngabe leto tinhlangothi leto niyadithinza yini?
Asibonge kakhulu. Yes, siyadithinza leto tinhlangothi ema libraries ethu nje siyayisebenzisa labo spelling, and right now kuyo process yokuthi sizame kwenda competition ye spelling bee, but ke ama details aloko asedolanzela because sisayiqala nje lempo leyo. Kwanyalo besakwenda nje within our libraries besendise bamfana laba labasuke bakhona at that time, but for nyalo besifuna kwenda nje nationally, involve etikolo sende nje spelling bee competition.
And then how accessible are your books? Ngiyatibuta nje ngingumtali lobukelako ngithi awumfana uyafuna lokufunda ngathi setadula, ngengathi nje ngiyabuka le angeke ngisho inkampani emagama kodwa nje incwadi setadula cishe tonke into setuvele dulile, but a library sinayo le luxury ukuthi siyakhona ukuthola mahala, but a certain protocol around that. Ngingumtali nyalo ngithi ngifuna kufunzela umfana wami every night before alale, noma nje every day nzambama siyafuna kufunza incwadi le aligna neminyaka wakhe, because you also have that advantage in my library. Talk to us about that kind of service. My plama stages look for now somebana awahambe with the supervision of a parent maybe. Because I'm really interested at sending yafuna kufunzela umfana every day.
Okay. Bambana bana access incwadi mahala, but umfana futhi abe lilunga lase library. We have a membership form whereby we afika umtali or umfana direct how you fill that form. On that form you attach a proof of residence yemtali, obviously, because kule form kukhona nema details of reference of which guardian yakho umtali. So we want a proof of residence for that, and then umfana alfilishe. It is free also. Anasakalfilela ikhadi lakhe umfana siyamendela asafilile the form siyamendela ikhadi lakhe, and then umfana seka ngaba access to the library for free. Services akhona. We have discussion rooms where we require also be member. Bayakhona abamfana ku-access discussion rooms, naso so sekana lelo khadi uyakhona ukuboleka incwadi to a maximum of 3 books for 2 weeks. Yes, so cishe nje sinayo leyo service leyo.
Yeah.
Siyabakhuthata kakhulu batali ngokusibamba nabo abajoyinele vele shemu, but ke kuye kube kahle ukuthi atendele kube nguye lo mfana lekhadi libe lakhe, so ungamfunzela ke wena mntali usekhaya. Okay, nabo batali siyabakhuthata ukuthi bafunze nabo babe nawo lamakhadi nabo bafunze.
Ngabe niyakhona ukuthola i-data lesikhombisa abantwana labo banabo dyslexia siyathi bantwana bafanana?
Yes. Not really sisengakakhona ukuba nayo le data leyo, but ngicabanga ukuthi sidawuzama ukuthi sisebenzisane nabo Ministry of Education on that sikhona ukuthi sibe nayo le access yaleyo data.
Kokugcina ngifuna sikubuke we cannot run away nzabe ukuthi tebuchwephesha sevele tikhona tishintshe a lot of dynamics sikunana kulokuthiwa ma e-books. Ngabe lama services lawo niyafinyelela yini kuwo ukuthi nicucutela kangakanani ukuthi salabantwana babuka bo e-books kwabana bo online learning vele most of these things you even alluded to it yourself ukuthi ngisho primary sibafunza online tindzaba to ukuthi kube nabo e-book niyafika yini kulawo ma services lawo?
Okay, siyabonga. Yes, siyafika kulawo ma services lawo because sinabo bangani la and sinawo netindzawo lesi subscriber kito leti siphako lama e-books nayo ma database la online. So uma ufika library we do give you my links aleto alawo ma e-books lo accessa khona i-data online. Nalokufunza vele asisho ukuthi thatha i-hard copy, we do have books lama electronic nakhona kuyafundwa khona online kude lokulo ngisebenzisa incwadi le online vele sesilapho.
Yeah.
Yes.
But sikucutela kakhulu ukuthi let's read aloud. No, siba kakhulu Nelsiwe Zwane assistant librarian from the Eswatini National Library Service khutsata nje batali nabo bantwana ekuthenini kusafundwa tona tincwadi sikufunze sikusho ngalamelumo yethu lamagama siwakhulume kutasita kakhulu lokho ekutheni sifunze kwati ukupronounce amagama kwa enunciator nekuthi nje improve igrammar yethu nekuthi sipreserve istory sikhulena ngedinganekwane siqhubutela lokho nje nomhla ekseni sibahle market esitabuya sichubene ihlelo.
What are the early signs of hearing loss? Can it be cured? And what can you do to protect your hearing? Hello and welcome to Science in 5. I'm Vismita Gupta-Smith. We are talking to Dr. Shelly Chadha today. Welcome, Shelly. Let's get started with what are the early signs of hearing loss?
Hi, Vismita. Well, perhaps one of the earliest indications that you could have a hearing loss is when you're not able to make out very clearly what people are saying in a noisy place, like a restaurant. If you go with friends and you have to keep asking them to repeat themselves because of the background noise and you can't make out clearly, then that is when you should suspect that you could have hearing loss. Also, if you have to frequently turn up the volume on your television or your radio or listening device that you are listening to music on, for example. Another indication is if people are telling you that you speak loudly, that could also be an indication that you're developing hearing loss. And finally, if you have a persistent ringing or buzzing sound in your ear, what is called tinnitus. Tinnitus could be one of the first indications that you have a hearing loss. So if you have any of these signs, it's important to take note of them and to get your hearing checked as soon as possible. You could also check your hearing yourself, do an initial check using WHO's free app, which is called Hear Who. So you can also use that app to do a first screening and see if you need to get a hearing test done.
Shelley, can hearing loss be cured?
Vismita, there are some causes of hearing loss that can be cured. For example, if you have wax obstructing your ear and making you feel a little blocked, or if you have an ear infection, or if the eardrum ruptures. These are things which can be treated by medicines or by surgery. But a lot of hearing loss cannot really be cured. What can be done is that people with hearing loss can communicate better through the use of devices like hearing aids and cochlear implants. What's important for these interventions to be effective is that they should be initiated at the earliest possible. And for that, it's important that we get our hearing checked regularly and we watch for those signs of hearing loss that I already mentioned earlier.
So Shelley, talk to us about the steps we can take every day to protect our hearing.
I'd like to start with what you should not do. So firstly, don't use anything, any Q-tips, cotton buds, pins, sticks to clean your ear. The ear is a self-cleaning organ. It doesn't need to be helped with these, and actually these can lead to infection, they can lead to obstruction, they can lead to rupture of the eardrum. What you should also not do is, if you have a ear problem, to use home remedies like putting oil into the ear. Also, don't share earplugs with others because that can transmit infection from one to the other. What you should do is to maintain the volume of your device. So if you're using headphones or earphones, make sure you keep the volume below 60% of the maximum. Whether you are using headphones or earphones for work or for pleasure, this is a common principle across the board. It's also important, if you're using it for listening to music, to limit the amount of time you spend on it and try to monitor your listening with the use of inbuilt apps which are available on your phones. If you're using the headphones for work, try to give your ears a break from time to time by using just the audio output of the computer to listen to a meeting or whatever it is you're listening to, if that's possible. And make sure that you don't keep using headphones again for leisure activities. Also, when you're in noisy places, use earplugs. Like if you're going to a noisy club or a noisy party, make sure you carry your little earplugs along and use them. So these simple tips can actually help us by making sure that we hear well today and keep hearing well across the course of our life.
Thank you, Shelley. Don't forget to check the Hear Who app, which is free of cost. Until next time then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you'll go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience in the kingdom.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at the news at 7. His Majesty the King and Ingwenyama is expected to deliver the speech from the throne this coming Friday in Parliament. Preparations for this important day are at an advanced stage.
His Majesty King Eswatini III is expected to address the nation during the official opening of the first session of the 12th Parliament this coming Friday. Her Majesty the Queen Mother is also expected to grace this auspicious event. Preparations for this important occasion are at a very high note, as on this day, the King and Ingwenyama will give parliamentarians a mandate and guidance on what is expected from the legislators as they will soon begin on their duty. Preparations towards this year's official opening of Parliament are at an advanced stage, as there have been several rehearsals followed by meetings with all stakeholders involved in preparation for this event. Today was the last day for the rehearsals. The state opening marks the start of a parliamentary year, which is usually referred to as a session. Eswatini TV will broadcast the speech from the throne live this coming Friday. On the news, I am Kusile Mazia Lobamba.
The Prime Minister, His Excellency Russell Dlamini, has encouraged all stakeholders who are involved in the preparation of the first session of the 12th Parliament to ensure that all goes according to plan on Friday during the state opening of Parliament. The Prime Minister was speaking shortly after inspecting the final rehearsals in Parliament.
Preparations for the joint sitting on Friday are at 95%, according to Clerk to Parliament Benedict Kaba. A joint sitting is summoned by His Majesty King Eswatini III for a state opening of Parliament, and when both houses disagree on certain legislations. The Prime Minister, His Excellency Russell Dlamini, today visited Parliament to inspect how the preparations are going. The Prime Minister encouraged all stakeholders to play their roles to the latter to ensure a smooth Parliament opening.
Naloyo lonike umsebenzi saleyabambisisa nibarethuze ukuthi kungaphunyuki ngakuye. Siyathanza kubonga ke nokuthi laba labahola lo msebenzi sibahloniphe bekunene ukuze ukuthi umsebenzi uhambe kahle. Ngoba na unikwe ukuthi uhole lo msebenzi wena ubukathi ngonletinyenti lokuthi nase basiconzisa sivele sivume nje silalele sende lokuthi diyasiwena. So kwekugcina ke ukuthi ngicele ukuthi silithandazele lo suku.
The Meteorology Department says there will be very high temperatures on Friday afternoon, and after lunch heavy rains are expected. For Eswatini TV News, I am Linton Gule with Smuva Shongwe in Parliament.
The Minister of Education and Training, Honorable Owen Ngumalo, says to further address the issue of shortage of teachers, the ministry will redeploy teachers from overstaffed schools. The minister also says the implementation of the performance management system will help solve this issue.
As the government has budgeted 65 million in Malangeni to hire on permanent basis 1,000 contract teachers to address the issue around shortage of teachers. The Honorable Minister of Education and Training, Owen Ngumalo, says government will also redeploy teachers from overstaffed schools to fill up vacant posts in other schools.
Overstaffed. Nako lokho ufuna sikubone sibadeploy kahle labo tishela bayikhwala ireport vele lo itsinzako nje leyasho siletinye etikolwa and vele letinye etikolwa bominister babuyile bangitshela ukuthi hey kulesikole lesi bashito kusibona babaningi and nalokucasheka kwabo labo tishela kufana kusikubuke because bukhanza ukuthi mhlambe bamekisatishela kulesinye isikole lokukhanza sakathingakali. So lokho sekutholile ukuthi hey lapha labo teacher nje nasifika le kubo bathi hey mina ngathi ngiyakhala lapha ngathi hey njengoba liseninika teacher lengamdzingi so konke lokho kutafuna vele sikubuke sikulungiswe kube khwela abantu batawubuketa ukuthi le mali le school fees disesekahle yini mala bayibothisha labakhala kuse lapha le education ibulawa ngokuthi sekude le funding le proper lokuthi sithwele quality education. So satoba cela ke labo lelo badla lelo lisibukele bese liletha ke ma recommendation bese ngiyamikisa ke cabinet.
The minister says the ministry will also establish councils to advise the ministry on school fees and the whole education sector. The minister also assured the Maswati that government is committed into ensuring quality education for all Maswati. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samkal Suyakoza with Zikumbuzo Dlamini Babane.
Tourism Minister Honorable Jane Simelane says the Kingdom of Eswatini is working towards advanced weather interactive processing systems. The minister was speaking during a tour of the Eswatini Meteorological Service offices.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Jane Simelane, toured and familiarized herself with the operations of the Eswatini Meteorological Service, where she was briefed about the components of weather data collection. The minister said Eswatini, with assistance from partners, is working on having advanced weather interactive processing systems.
Silive nathi sinebudlelwane nemave langesheya Bongiland la nabo basibambisa khona nathi ke siyakhona lokho ukuthi sithole simo sethu selitulu sakangwane ngekuhamba kwesikhathi nathi sitagcina sifikile ngoba sisho sesilungu sithi Rome was not built in a day. Nathi ke sitawushaya kahle sitawugcina sifikile la umhlaba usifuna sifike khona. Hulumende unetinini akasebenzi yedwana kuba nato tinini nathi sitawuphindze siphume siye kito tinini tite umbambisa hulumende ukuthi kungasebenzeka kanjani kangcono kunalokho.
The minister also says with support from development partners, the ministry has a task to upgrade the structures of the service, and the Eswatini Meteorological Service Director Duduzile Nhlengetho said the service is yet to hold a workshop on climate change models. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samkal Suekoza, Babane.
About 10 revenue appeal cases have been lodged through the Revenue Appeals Tribunal since it started operations last year. This has been revealed by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Neil Reichenberg, when questioned on how the tribunal has worked since it started its operations. On another one, piggery production has recorded a decline of 12% in the year 2022 when compared with the year 2021. This is contained in a report from the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development in partnership with the Central Bank of Eswatini, which looked at economic development.
According to the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development, Macroeconomic Analysis and Research Unit with the Central Bank of Eswatini, they have released the 2023 Company Survey Report, which looks at annual performance of the economy and informs stakeholders of economic development outlook. Looking within the Ministry of Agriculture under the piggery production, domestic pork production reflected a decline of 12.0% in the year 2022 as production volumes went down from 2,225 tons in 2021 to 1,958 tons in the review period. The decline was mainly attributable to hikes in feed costs, which caused some farmers to disinvest from pork production. There were no pork imports reported in the period as the country continued to implement the import substitution program. To cover the deficit in pork production, processed pork imports increased by 79.4% from 328 tons reported in the previous year to 577 tons in the same period. Under the raw milk production, total dairy cattle population, which includes bulls and calves, it was reported that they stood at 7,294, while the milking herd stood at 5,302 in 2022, reflecting a slight decline of 7.9% and 18.3% respectively, due to a number of challenges. This includes extremely high temperatures in summer-affected grass quality and also led to tick-borne diseases, which was detrimental to the performance of dairy cattle and thus milk production. Moreover, the extended summer period was unfavorable to milk production as milk per cow was reduced to 8 liters per day in summer, below the 10 to 15 liters target compared to winter months where production averages to 17 liters per day. Moreover, the heat in summer also made it difficult for the cows to fall pregnant as the pregnancy rate fell to 50%, which is below the expected rate of 80%. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB, Mbabane.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Sidney Smelane, says farmers from the Ihoho region were the most affected by the storm that hit the country on Monday. Simelane says as a ministry they were hoping for a better yield this year, which might not be the case due to the storm witnessed on Monday, which left most farmers jaw-dropped. On another one, a survey that was conducted by the Women Unlimited shows an increase in sexual harassment cases amongst university students. The Women Unlimited gathered organizations that deal with abuse to workshop them on how to put an end to sexual harassment and violence on students. And on international news, according to the Reuters news agency, Hamas has proposed a ceasefire plan that would quiet the guns in Gaza for 4.5 months, during which all hostages would go for free. Israel would withdraw its troops from the Gaza Strip and an agreement would be reached on an end to the war.
4 months into the war in Gaza and a proposed ceasefire plan is being considered. Hamas officials have responded to an Israeli US-backed proposal, which was sent last week by Qatari and Egyptian mediators, with their own version of a 3-phase plan. Lasting 135 days, it would ultimately see a total withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. The militant group released a statement on their Telegram page.
The movement dealt with the proposal in a positive spirit, ensuring a comprehensive and complete ceasefire and ending the aggression against our people. It guarantees relief, shelter, reconstruction, the lifting of the siege on the Gaza Strip, and the completion of a prisoner exchange.
Under the deal, Phase 1 would last 45 days, see all Israeli women, males under 19, elderly and sick hostages released. Palestinian women and children would be released from Israeli jails and Israeli troops would withdraw from populated areas. Phase 2 would see the release of all remaining hostages held by Hamas and a complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. And Phase 3, the exchange of bodies and remains. By this stage, Hamas expects both sides to have reached an agreement to end the war. The truce would also see an increase in much-needed aid in Gaza, where, according to the UN, the entire population of over 2 million people is in food crisis, with hundreds of thousands at risk of starvation.
After holding talks with visiting United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejected as delusional a counter-proposal by Hamas to hostage deal brokered by the United States, Qatar and Egypt.
Wednesday marked 4 months since the October 7th cross-border attacks by Hamas that killed 1,200 people in Israel and saw the U.S.-designated terrorist group taking some 240 people hostage. About 135 hostages are still unaccounted for. Ceremonies were held in cities around the world, including Paris. The top U.S. diplomat, Antony Blinken, is in the Middle East to push for the release of the hostages, including 6 Americans, and an extended pause in the fighting to get more humanitarian aid to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dismissed a proposal by Hamas, which reportedly called for the withdrawal of all Israeli forces from Gaza.
Today, I told Secretary of State Blinken that after defeating Hamas, we will make sure that Gaza be demilitarized for good. The history already proved that there is only one force that can promise such a thing, the State of Israel, through the IDF and our security forces.
At a separate press conference late Wednesday, Blinken had this to say about the Hamas counteroffer.
While there are some clear non-starters in Hamas's response, we do think it creates space for agreement to be reached. And we will work at that relentlessly until we get there.
In Tel Aviv, a group of freed Israeli hostages appealed to Netanyahu to push for a
hostage deal. I
Again, I am turning to you, Mr. Netanyahu. Everything is in your hands. You are the one that can. And I am very scared, very afraid, that if you continue in this line of bringing down Hamas, there won't be any hostages to free anymore.
In his talks with Israeli officials, Blinken said that the death toll of Palestinians in Gaza is still far too high, and that any military operation against Hamas needs to put the safety of civilians first and foremost. According to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health in Gaza, at least 27,478 Palestinians have been killed in the Gaza Strip since October the 7th. About 70% of those killed are reported to be women and children. More than 66,800 Palestinians have reportedly been injured. Blinken also held talks in Ramallah in the West Bank with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. Blinken will hold more talks in Israel on Thursday and plans to meet with the families of hostages held by Hamas.
Donald Trump has no immunity from prosecution as a former president and can be tried on charges of conspiring to overturn the 2020 election. A federal appeals court said this on Tuesday, February 6, in a landmark ruling.
He'd claimed he was immune from criminal charges for acts he believed fell within his presidential duties. But a federal court has ruled against Donald Trump, saying that the former US president can be prosecuted on charges accusing him of plotting to overturn his 2020 election defeat. The court's conclusion was that any presidential power shielding Trump from criminal charges no longer protects him once out of the Oval Office, something the 77-year-old called a political weapon.
A president of the United States must have full immunity in order to properly function and do what has to be done for the good of our country. A nation-destroying ruling like this cannot be allowed to stand. If not overturned, as it should be, this decision would terribly injure not only the presidency, but the life, breath and success of our country.
The ruling is a setback for Trump, who has cited presidential immunity for years across multiple legal battles. The case is one of 4 criminal prosecutions he faces, even as he remains the likely frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination, which, with only months to go before the election, could protect him again should he win.
Well, essentially what they've ruled is that executive immunity only can protect a president during his time in office, during his time of service. Once he leaves the White House, he has no more rights than any other citizen. There's a desire to get this conviction before the election and before the next inauguration to prevent it being dismissed, in effect, by the orders of then President Trump.
According to Trump's campaign spokesperson, he plans to appeal, either by asking the Circuit Court to reconsider the ruling or going directly to the Supreme Court.
A new poll says Americans are concerned over United States President Joe Biden's handling of the economy. Despite the administration's touting of positive economic figures, the survey puts Biden's approval at 38% in January and predicts a tight race with challenger Donald Trump.
To hear the Biden administration tell it, the U.S. economy is on an upswing.
Over the past 3 years, President Biden and I have lowered costs, created opportunity, and are building an economy that works for working people. We have created more than 14.5 million new jobs, increased wages for tens of millions of Americans. Today, consumer confidence is up, and consumer spending is an all-time high. And although we have more work to do, let us be clear, America's economy continues to be the strongest in the world.
The head of the U.S. Central Bank, which fiercely maintains its independence from political pressure, agrees.
We feel like inflation is coming down. Growth has been strong. The labor market is strong. What we're trying to do is identify a place where we're really confident about inflation, getting back to 2%, so that we can then begin the process of dialing back the restrictive level.
But a new poll from research firm Ipsos shows that a rising number of American voters don't buy it. And that's hurting Biden's re-election chances.
Biden is entering into 2024 in a weakened position.
We have him at this point at 38% approval rating. And that's important because based on our experience, our historical experience, a sitting president at 40% approval rating or better has better than a 50-50 chance of winning the next election.
Voters' top issue, Young says, is the economy, and not the bigger trends, but the nickels and dimes.
Peel that onion away, and they're really worried about inflation.
South Carolina's Democratic voters overwhelmingly supported Biden in a recent primary. But even supporters say they feel the pinch.
Groceries are high, higher than we've seen in a while. Gas is also, but what I'm encouraged by is mortgage interest rates are beginning to go down.
That, Young says, is a new spin off the Clinton-era political saying that American voters share one priority. It's the economy, stupid.
It's the inflation, stupid. And by the way, we really don't know how inflation behaves relative to politics, relative to public opinion. We haven't had a lot of experience in the United States in the last few generations with high rates of inflation.
Donald Trump has touted his economic acumen to voters on the campaign trail. The former president, however, is facing 4 criminal cases and a civil judgment over alleged business fraud, in which he's accused of wildly inflating his net worth. Is that likely to sway voters whose minds appear to be already made up? The world will find out in November.
Protests shut down major cities in Haiti, and continuous demonstrators clashed with police and demanded the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry.
Barricades of burning tyres in the streets of Port-au-Prince, Haiti's capital, as protesters took to the streets for the second day in a row. They're calling for Prime Minister Ariel Henry to resign, accusing him of failing to tackle a devastating surge in gang violence.
Whoever can help the Haitian people, we will be ready to talk so that we can have freedom.
According to local media, protests earlier in the week paralysed public transport and forced banks and schools in northern and southern Haiti to close their doors. Opposition politician Jean-Charles Moïse has said that clashes with police will not deter protesters.
Attacks from the police only make us more determined. If Ariel Henry does not leave, we'll continue to protest.
Henry came to power following the assassination of Jovenel Moïse, the country's former president, in 2021. Protesters argue that the Prime Minister must resign on February the 7th, under an agreement he signed in December 2022. The PM has vowed to hold elections, but has argued that it is currently unsafe to do so. Since Moïse's death, violent gangs have expanded their control across most of the capital and nearby areas, and the impact on residents has been devastating. The UN estimates that nearly half of the population is going hungry, as rival gangs indiscriminately kill, rape, kidnap and loot, competing for territory. An estimated 300,000 people are internally displaced as a result of the violence, according to Human Rights Watch.
Argentine President Javier Milei was dealt a major setback in Parliament on Tuesday when his deeply controversial deregulatory reform package was prevented from advancing and set back for a rewrite, legislators said.
A U-turn for the omnibus. Argentine legislators on Tuesday blocked the advance of President Javier Milei's sweeping economic reform package, sending it back to committee for a rewrite. Outside Parliament, protesters and opposition leaders celebrated the setback for the controversial bill.
We are very happy. It's obvious that with this massive popular pressure, the bill could not have passed. It is a bill that attacks the rights of all the Argentine people, as well as the land, the water, and all the common goods that we have in this country.
The omnibus bill initially contained more than 600 articles. Negotiations in Congress had whittled that down to around 300. They include the privatization of state-owned companies, the delegation of some legislative powers to the president, removing government controls on the economy, and raising rates for public services and utilities. Milei was elected last year in a resounding upset amid the latest in a long series of economic crises for Argentina. A self-described libertarian anarcho-capitalist, he wants to radically cut spending and bring down budget deficits he says are driving inflation that has now topped 200%. Already, Milei has devalued the peso by more than half, cut subsidies for fuel and transportation, eliminated ministries, and ditched hundreds of economic regulations, as well as slashing thousands of government jobs. Those moves met with approval by the International Monetary Fund, which recently approved the release of $4.7 billion in loans. But they've also sparked massive protests as Argentines face steep cuts to the subsidies and services on which many depend.
India has deployed warships in the Arabian Sea to provide security to ships in the waters east of the Red Sea, where drone attacks by Houthi rebels and a resurgence in piracy and posing a challenge. India's large naval deployment is seen as part of the country's ambition to be seen as a rising power.
From helping douse a fire on a Marshall Islands flagged tanker that was struck by a missile fired by Houthi rebels, to rescuing vessels hijacked by pirates, Indian Navy warships have been providing security to merchant ships in the Arabian Sea. India has not joined the US-led task force for the Red Sea that is launching strikes against Iran-backed Houthi rebels, whose missile and drone attacks on commercial ships have disrupted global trade. But since December, India has deployed about 10 warships that include guided missile cruisers as well as surveillance aircraft to police waters east of the Red Sea.
I think the scale is quite unprecedented, and I think in some ways this represents a confidence that Indian Navy has in its own abilities. And I think the requirement to be seen as a benevolent regional player that is not simply looking after its own interests, but also the interests of the global common.
The Navy has helped at least 2 ships struck by missiles and drones, according to Indian officials. But amid a resurgence in piracy, much of its focus has been on conducting anti-piracy patrols. Last week, it helped rescue 2 Iranian-flagged fishing vessels hijacked by pirates and released their crew members taken as hostages. Commissioning a hydrographic survey ship, Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said the naval forces aim to protect both trade and regional security.
Our Navy has become so strong that we have become the first responder in terms of security in the Indian Ocean and Indian Pacific region. I say that with confidence.
While border disputes with China and Pakistan in the Himalayas had long kept India's focus on the army, the country has also built up its naval prowess in recent decades, acquiring more advanced ships, submarines and aircraft.
We are one of the biggest force here, and we know that the world's trade is moving through these routes, and we normally, go with the freedom of seas, freedom of navigation. That is why this deployment has happened, to scan the area, sanitize the area.
Projecting power in the Indian Ocean, which India calls its backyard, signals the country's aspirations to be counted as a responsible emerging power.
Increasingly, that seems to be the answer that India is providing. That look, we are willing to work with the world towards collective ends. We don't, we are not a, we don't want to. We are not a disruptor to the global order, regional order. We want to be a player, a responsible stakeholder. So naturally, if there is a crisis happening around your periphery, India has to step up to the plate and make its own contribution.
Indian officials hope their deployment will prevent the threats to merchant vessels spilling beyond the Red Sea.
In sports news, there's a confusion between FIFA official transfer window closing dates as well as Eswatini Football Association's closing dates. That's according to FIFA. The January transfer window will close this coming Friday on the 9th of February, while the Football Association says the window closed last week Friday on the 2nd of February. Eswatini United head coach Mpumelelo Ngwenya says there is a disadvantage that comes with playing one team twice in a row, even though it might be a different competition. Ngwenya was speaking ahead of their Ingwenyama Cup quarterfinals clash with Mbabane Highlanders, which is going to be this coming weekend at the Mavuso Sports Center, with both teams coming from facing each other in the MTN Premier League over the weekend. And that's it for the news. We'll go for an ad break. We'll return. It's Kubeka.
selling peanuts at 5. Thank you so much. Find the scratch, baby.
Let us all partake as the King sets out the government agenda for the next parliamentary session. Be part of our live broadcast as we ensure that you do not miss out as His Majesty delivers the speech from the throne. His Majesty King Eswatini III will officially open the first session of the 12th Parliament on Friday. Eswatini TV will provide rolling coverage of the state event from 9 a.m.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m, where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Welcome back. Sakuvusela nawo losanza kuzivulela besivedile ukuthi silabe sikhulumisana naliyo mamba losuka ka Build It batabe ke babuyisela emuva esiveni kulempela somvele siyakiyo batabe bavakashele i-community yase Nsingizini kuyopha nje banvana kakhulukati labo labaswele tipho letehlukahlukene ufaya cards timvude esikolwa kanye nebabhadalela nje esikolweni kutabe ke kunemidlalo letawudlalwa nakhona lefaya cards ibhola kuzama nje kuhlanganisa bona banfana bakuloyo mphakathi sesivele naye lapha liyo mamba uchazela abantu ngemsebenzi wa this weekend asivusela mamba seba usebenasi lamhla ehlelo I think i-campaign noma ke ngumsebenzi lomuhle lona lenwendago Build It inhlangano nambabane nibambisene nengibabane nje nanhlangano usichazela nje isithombe usinete ukuthi nifike njani la ekutheni nivele nende umsebenzi walehlobo
sivusele eMaswatini sivusele kusukela kaHoho siyofika elibombo kanye nasemanzini kakhulukazi nasenshiselweni sizinjengoba sovetile ukuthi ngisuka enhlangano lokungumndeni nani babane Build It sisuka ke phasi kweliphahla la Esa siphefe abantu baka Esa labamba nekati bale business ngako cishe nabo singacala sikhulume ngabo ukuthi banenhlitiyo lenhle for eMaswati bayanakekela njengoba sike saveta before ukuthi bayasita eMaswati lapha nalapha kufundiseni babo esikoleni njengoba nje lokhu sikwendela ngobe uyikhanze ukuthi sinayo i-budget yeminyaka lapho khona simhlambe sithi sine budget lengaka le specified ukuthi sitokwathi kufundisa abamfu ukhanze ukuthi nayo seyiyeqa ke le budget ngenxa yokuthi sekufika timo lethide leti bangela ukuthi sibuke ukuthi ishi lona uthenge kakhulu ngeke sale simshiya kwendluleke siye ngisho emakhaya ukhanze ukuthi kunetindlu lapho khona kufanele ukuthi sakhele gogo uyafika gogo esitolo uyakhala bayabuka belungu ukuthi bangamsita ngani ngoba phela vele lokho lesinako siyakhona kusita ngako bese ke kuba ngule event lesiyitelela kakhulu le event lesiyitelela namuhla lena lesitaba sinayo eNsingizini kuyi campaign lesicale eminyakeni lophelile nga-August sacala eZombodze kusho ukuthi sahlala phansi sabuka nje ukuthi ngabe yini lesingayenda njenga Build It inhlangano njengoba nje mahardware yangaka inhlangano yini lesingayenda njenga Build It inhlangano ukuze sihambe nalama vision nema missions a Build It lomkhulu lo South Africa wonke sabuka ukuthi indlela lekahle kakhulu ukuthi asesike siconze kula communities siye kohlala nawo sijabule nawo singabe worried noma mhlambe sijatshulise ukuthi baya support kuphela let's just give them back yebo kona akulingani ukuthi ngeke kufanane ukuthi sitawunika lokho lokukhulu lokho lokuncane lesinako njengoba sishito sitaba sama games siphinde sipha leto tipo
yeah njengoba ushido nje mamba ukuthi nicalela siyenivakashela eZombodze emuva kanye nasemasayisini eshiselweni ngabe nakhanza simo sinjani lapho nani vakashele umango wakuleto tindzawo
kusho ukuthi njengoba siya kulomango sisuke siyohlala nalo sisuke okay silungisela indzawo letside lapho khona sifike sihlale sisebenzise yona bese sibabuthelana ndawonye ngako nasifika angeke ubone lesimo sasemakhaya ngobe sindzawonye kepha ke siye sibuke lokuthi lo munye uyakhala athi ishwati ngilingale kanje ngilasikwati khona kuphika letimvo lesingabasita ngato
kuba ngitiphi letinkinga vele abanye badzinga mhlambe i-uniform zasesikolweni badzinga kudla nani
uqinisile lapho sisi vele kwenza ukuthi badzinga uniform ikakhulukazi siye site kule simo lesikiso labanye babo bagcine bangene ngishohlelweni lokuthi bathole kudla njalo ngeliviki njalo ngenyanga timvo leticeshe bekanjalo nje.
Okay, so this weekend nitabe niya eNsingizini futhi ndabe kutabe kunema games ndabe niwadlala sichazela ngawo ama games kutabe endeka this weekend.
Kusho ukuthi njengoba esivedela ukuthi it's building Mbabane naNhlangano. Sinawo lama team lamabili siya invite imbabane ukuthi yehle inhlangano bese sesicela team lamabili la kulo umphakathi lesikiwo ngoba phela siyoniketa back vele kufanele sijabulise nawo. So kuyadlalwa ke naqeza kudlalwa ima game lamabili bese kuyiwa ku final. La mkhathini wala ma games kutaba kune social lokusho ukuthi noma ngabe ngibani lofuna ukutheka naNhlangano na build it angafika sitokwati kumfaka kule yethu ngoba lelenye itaba ye-community i-social. Kuyosho ukuthi imvo lemnanzi kakhulu ngoba uyakhona usongabuka nebantu labadala bataba nethuba lokuthi badlale.
Yeah. So kungaphela amanye ama activities nje mhlambe letabe endeka during the day kumbe kutabe kuna ama stores tabe kunekudla indlela yenye letabe yendeka kuze into khona kukhanga mhlambe ama community members aseNsingizini ukuthi ede nawo atoti enjoya atoti jabulisa nje ngalelanga.
Ngaphandle ngiyabonga umuntu wakho noko ufake khathi lenye lesingeke si confirm manje lokuma refreshment kepha sisasebenza cishe nivedi kanjalo kwanyalo lesisho ngako ukuthi abantu baseSingizini batawujabula ngoba noma bangakatholi bonke kepha le entertainment lama games kanye naloko lesitaba sibaphekona kutawujabulisa kakhulu kungako sithi nje inshiselo siyayati ke eSingizini ithanza kakhulu ibhola kungako sithi sicela bonke babuye sitojabule sonke.
So nibuka ukuthi lena kutaba yimva mhlambe lenifise ukuthi niyende njalo ngeminyaka njengoba last year naye emasayisini nyalo eNsingizini nibukele ukuthi nichubeke mhlambe nikwende monthly noma nikwende annually lokubuyisela emuva nje isivene.
Ngiyabonga sisi kusho ukuthi njengoba sibuyisela isivene kona kusebenza kabili siyathi ukuthi uyahamba uyothi kusebenza emarket kuphinza kusebenza ukuthi mhlambe ugive back to the community. Sibukile ukuthi sitawuchubeka sikwenda vele sibuka at least nasingaba na 4 ema event lo mnyaka lokusho ukuthi sesina 3 lo sele nasenda leya ngeweekend lokusho ukuthi imvele sitayenda vele futhi asiphinza phinza indzawo sifuna kuhamba tonke leti indzawo ngisho nalendzawo leti semakhaya mbamba bese kuba nanako lesiphinze sikwendeke etikolweni lokuthi mhlambe nasesivakashila lapha eNsingizini kafuna phinze sibuyele esikolweni noma timbili noma tintsafu kepha siyesende sinye noma timbili lapho khona sifike sikhulumisane khona nalo head teacher sibo singabe yini lesingayenda kuze si-award bafunze ngoba phela sine kakhulu sigxile kuma sports na education. Sinayo ama pencil case la cokomisa education, sinayo amabhola la cokomisa i-sports. Uyathi ke sports ukuthi siyabagcina abantwana ukuthi bangaze bangene imikhuba lemibi. Ngakho sifuna kudlala inzima lenkulu lapha kungako siphinze sibuyele esikoleni njengoba ubona nje lapha eDorobheni High School naseNgwane Central High School sike saya lapha sayo awada ema top 5 nema top 3 bajabula kakhulu kuyimvo lesijabulisa konathi ngoba kwenda ukuthi le brand ya build it ikakhulu kade inhlangano Mbabane kubonakala kusebakhathela ama customer.
Emaba kuvala ukuthi ntabe niphisana mhlambe ngetipho nitabakhetha kanjani la wenda bapha le tipo mhlambe nendaba wena safuthi ema prizes
kuba nema questions kube mhlambe nemidlalo ethide kazombothe nje sasisebenzisa indlela ukuthi labadala bemebodfana bogogo nabomkhulu sibaphethele ama lock sets lawa laqine kakhulu abo union sithi bashaya penalty noma ngaba akashaya le penalty lo mntomtsala bese simnike lesipho ngobe ngumvlo mdala abalabancane boyokhanza ukuthi sinemabhola sinema pencil case sinema sweet lo shaya penalty ayishaye bese simnika ibhola ngoba wayigeja siyakhona ukunika pencil case sithini ngame emagama sitojabula nawe asidlale sijabule sonke
tikipa botatfola ntikipa taka build it
Unfortunately sisilapho singaxolisa nje ukuthi inkinga ikhipha lesinato tiyuniform yethu bese siseka kalibuki le side lekuthi sibuke ikhipha lesisi mhlambe athi uniform ngoba lokuyeke yonke ukhanze ukuthi sibanika leti khipha bese bantu ba believe ukuthi lesi sisebenzi sasebhili lokusho ukuthi imvelo sitayibuka le singakubuyisela back sibuka ukuthi ngabe yini lesingayenda kuze ukuthi abantu babe nedikhipha letihlukile kuletefu dekusebenta.
Okay, so ndabeni kuphi nicala ngabansikhathi nicatha ngabansikhathi?
Kusho ukuthi isikhathi sekucala kwale event ithi 9:15 ngoba besicela siwonke move nga 9 o'clock abafikile ngoba nga 9:30 iyaqala igame ngakona kuqala igame lamkhathilo lama games ngilapha khona siba khona nalama entertainments kuse half time siyakwati kubuta lawo ama question lawo ngesocial sesiyakwati ke ukuthi sende konke cishe so
okay ndabeni kuphi ke
sidaba sisensingizini esidluthe kusho ukuthi uyasuka lahluthe wehle kancane uphakame uyetulu lapha khona kune training ground yensingizini Hotspurs FC.
Okay, nosibonga kakhulu baba Mamba kuba nathi nomhlahlelo nimukeliso tivele ukuthi mangabe nawe ufuna kuba ingcenye yale activity this weekend vele uye khona 9:15 so vetile lapha Mamba ukuthi umsebenzi uyaqala khona ensingizini this weekend. Sibahlole makethana sibuya sibe sikhulumisana na Nicholas Jele ngatoti indzaba the cybercrime.
Renewal of TV licenses for 2024 is now open. Here is a quick reminder. A viewer's TV license costs 180 emalangeni per device. Other accessories such as decoders and set-top box cost 50 emalangeni per device. For traders and repairers, TV license costs 300 emalangeni per business area. And now, to pay your TV license, use these following methods. You can use MTN Mobile Money with the number 762222000 or dial *007 *3 *7#, or you can use Eswatini Imali. You can pay our TV license at any post office in the country. Another option is you can use any NetBank branch using our TV license account number 119900430037. Don't forget, when paying for your viewer's TV license, reference with your PIN at all times. And when paying for a retailer TV license, reference with your TIN at all times. For more information, call us on 7802-4543 or 34050163 or 34020879. And you can send us a WhatsApp message on 762222000.
Let us all partake as the King sets out the government agenda for the next parliamentary session. Be part of our live broadcast as we ensure that you do not miss out as His Majesty delivers the speech from the throne. His Majesty King Eswatini III will officially open the first session of the 12th Parliament on Friday. Eswatini TV will provide rolling coverage of the state event from 9 a.m.
Asimze sinimukele ngo-15 minutes before 8 o'clock sitawuteka tindzaba tekucala kwenteka ngetebuchwephesha ababe Nicholas Jele losuka khona emaphoyisa. Sifuna ukuva nje ukuthi selokuqala umnyaka ingabe setingakhi mhlambe tikigaba lesetibhikiwe khona emaphoyiseni ngayo i-cybercrime. Asikuvusele baba Jele sihamba ngothuba nasi lomhla ekseni. Sifuna ukuva nje ukuthi selokuqala umnyaka sakhumbula ukuthi kube nesiphithiphithi sebatali sekubhadalwa kwama-school fees nani siye sibone sike sabona eminyakeni edlulile ukuthi vele tigebengu tibe setibona ithuba lokuthi vele tisebenzise abatali. Ingabe vele kukhona vele mhlambe tikigaba lesetibhekiwe noma khona lesenikutfolile lenikuphenyayo kulolo hlangothi?
Sibonga kakhulu Lulu simvusele umbukele ekhaya. Lesingakusho nje singemaphoyisa embube ukuthi cha vele kuphithitela kube khona noma kusengaphela incono nonyalo. Kodwa nje ke kusede igameko letibikiwe singathi ke thina singemaphoyisa sikubuka kuyisuccess leyo mhlawumbeni elihlangothini lokutheni badale kumbe bakhonile kulalela leyo myalezo mhlambe lesibaniketa yona kito indlela leti njengalete ukuthi sichumane nabo badali sibanikete leyo awareness kuze bakhone kugwema. Kodwa ke siyathi ukuthi eminyakeni lophelile tibe khona igameko mhlambe letibikwako ekakhulu kati nangabe sokureconcile etikolweni lapho kutholakala khona ukuthi lamanye deposit voucher labete nawo batali batoprove ukuthi babhadele awasilo liqiniso ngalamanye amagama leyo mali sikungakangeni ngekhathi lokungukuthi kusuke kwendekile lithabela ngoti lefika lamkhipha umntali elayinini lamethembisa ukuthi litamsita masinyane akabuyise le mali lapha litomdepositela kanze alifaki ngekhathi ebhange bese ke selimniketa I receipt imbumbulu noma ke deposit slip imbumbulu lengasiyo mbamba leqhamuka ngekhathi ebhange noma ibukeka sengathi iqhamuka khona kodwa ke isuke ingasiyo leqhamuka khona nguleto mhlambe igameko letivama kusihlupha ekupheleni kweminyaka. Kodwa ke inyalo sisengakuboni lokho ekwendeka sisebukile ke ngoba mhlambe itikolo ngikhani tsetha ureconcile utawukhanza thencenye kutawuphinze kuyivete inhloko yabo lembi.
Ingabe nasekwendeke imvule kanjena babejeleni besele nanjani ningemaphoyisa nembophenelo yomntali loyo noma mhlambe necala niphenyisise vele litfolele ukuthi akamazakanyeki vele nalokucala lobendekile because labanye vele mhlambe bangalingeka ambhadale leyo mfloyo vele athatha le receipt le fake nihamba nifike phi nje neliphenyelweni.
Brilliant questions atsewethu ngicabanga ukuthi noma ke lesivama kukwenda thina ukuthi vele silauncha a full scale investigation kuleyo ndzaba leyo sikhone kulandzelela simbambambamba kwendekeni nangabe nayo umntali kunesandla la kasifakile vele uyabhekana nelulaka lwemthetho kepha ke esikhathini lesiningi lesikubonile uyothola ukuthi umntali uinnocent akade sikwendekeni yena nje ubone lo msamaria lolungile lofikako lotomsita ukuthi amkhiphe layinini njengomlo sasimdzala akhone kumbhadalela masinyane ngekhathi abuyisa ireceipt kuyi lapho ke vele sikuyasithokodisa lokwathi ukuthi tikhona indlela tekukulandzelela lokho ngoba siyathi phela bekunene kuliqiniso ukuthi kude libhange lelingenayo nyalo icamera libonakalisa ukuthi kwendekani siyakhona kubona ema surroundings siyakhona kubona mhlambe nangekhathi noma kwendeke ngekhathi ebanking hall siyakhona kukulandzelela sikubone lokho sigcineke mhlambe sifikile kuleso sigilamkhipha.
Kubuta nje babetshele ukuthi ezinisenda mhlambe liphenyelweni ninabo yini buchwephesha mhlambe le maphoyiseni lenisebenzisako ukuzama ukubathola kahle kahle ukuthi laba letinsela boyati kuphi kahle kahle mhlambe nibuye location yabo kuze batholakale batobhekana namacala abo.
Kuliqiniso tsatewethu sine cyber crime desk lekhona le fully fledged lekhona ukuthi imtrace umuntu noma ngayiphi indlela lesingamtrace ngayo sigcine simlocate levele mhlambe lapha khona lokuthi insita letinkhulu noma ke lokulisito lolukhulu kwekuthi elusisite nje emaphoyisa ekwendeni umsebenzi wethu kuze kuthube lula vele asisho ukuthi awube kunene labo labatigila mkhiba taka cyber related crimes vele iyawulala ibonene bekunene sisukumile sikhwici above our elbows kuze ukuthi sikhona kubaletha embi kwemthetho njengalokubhekekile.
Lokunyela sekuvamile nje kulamalanga lesingunothile social media semane ngakhulu ama posts ema fake advertisements bamfu bayalingeka ngalapha nalapha ingabe nako lokho kuyinkinga lenganani nje ezinisaqhubeka nje neliphenyelweni.
Ngubonene uteka yona sibili le yema adverts la fake vele is very common. Iyaslupha ikakhulu kati njalo nje nakutawuphela umnyaka ngiyona sivama kuyibona kakhulu ukhanze ukuthi mhlawumbe kuadvertisewa imotolo noma ke ngiluphi ihlobo lecommodity lengathandwa abantu bese ke loye kunene sewuyakhona ukuthi angabona leyo advert so uchumana nabo ke direct nasachumana nabo direct uthole ukuthi bamfuqele ekuthenini abhadale imali embili lesithi upfront payment yaleyo commodity noma bangasho ukuthi ifaka ideposit lengaka ngoba le commodity iyahamba emarket vele kungende kuyiluze kasha na ungafaka le deposit vele seyitabange yakho noma kanjani wayigcumisela le mali lapho uyigcumisela khona ungakade netisi ungakahlola ukuthi ingabe vele ku authentic kangakanani uthola ukuthi vele liswati lakithi seliyayiluza leyo mali kanjalo ngoba emva kwaloko sebacisha yonke communication awusakhona ukubathola abasakudeliver njengoba bakuthembisile ukuthi batakudeliver leyo commodity yakho ngakho ke singacela ukuthi nasithole lithuba lenjengaleli zathi wethu siwendlulise isixwayiso kiwo onke maswati ukuthi awube kunene checka yonke into longayichecka ngaphambi kokuthi ukhulule imali uyihambise denetise ukuthi vele le mali iya exactly lapho mhlawumbe ubheke ukuthi uyise khona nekwekuthi ingabe vele yo advert iqiniso kangakanani asitihlupheni siya espledge ke singemaphoyisa kwekuthi nangabe kukhona lo sekukuthethe ubona ukuthi ungathi lokhu ngifuna ukuthenga kanti nale mali mhlawumbe lokumele uyithenge ngako isetulu singacela thina ukuthi wote emaphoyiseni ka cybercrime desk usitshele ukuthi naku lofuna kukwenda sitame nathi ukubonisa ngoba emehlo lamabili dzadzewethu ayabonisana.
Ingabe bagcina batfolakele indlaba labento lokucala especially labo nje mhlambe labaganga khona la ka Facebook nalabo nje labathengisa imoto yakhona ini lokubatfola info location yabo ngesebenzisa lona lehlangothi lona.
Kuliqiniso dzadzewethu kulesinye isikhathi nje ukhanze sikuneli garage lokuthiwa likhona kumbe evenda bomakhelwane lelithengisa imoto letingukuthi sokuya advertisewa ke kubo Facebook siyakhona ukuthi sihlole sila singakahambi sihlole ngato indlela tebuchwepheshe sikhone kubona ukhanze kusi le address la sinikete yona lo ekune noma la advertiser ngayo ubathe uyabuka hawu kule address lena kude lutho lo njengalento lakhuluma ngayo so uyakhona ke usinoma sisitane nabomakhelwane bethu ema counterparts ethu phela ukuthi awasiconfirmele vele ukuthi ngabe lesikubona ukuthi nokuliqiniso yini uthole sivele kuliqiniso ayikho leyo nto sesiyakhona ke ukuthi simeluleke eliswati lakithi ukuthi awena kunene lapha welukele tibawini ungcono ungayihambisa imali
nosho ukuthi kuyafana namhlambe nalabo labafuna imisebenzi ama fake jobs nalabo abafuna ama scholarships nalabo labafuna mhlawumbe letinye letiningi kumcoka lokuthi vele bachaphelisise nabo baphenyisise lokuthi kwendekani ukuthi mhlawumbe lomunye umfu apply mhlawumbe scholarship konze ukuthi naso asikho apply lesikolo naso asikho bese nibhekana kanjani na investigations lawo
dzadzewethu kuyenteka lokho indzaba lesigcina sesiyisherisha mhlawumbe neluhlangothi lolubuka indlela zokushushumbiswa kwabantu ngoba kuyenteka kulokunye uadvertise leto tikolo noma lawo ma scholarships la khona mhlawumbe ne azefike umuntu lapho khona ahanjiswa khona aya kulelinye live only to find ukuthi leyo ndzawo lokuthiwa uya kiyo ayikho noma akabhekwa akatiwa bese sesiyakhona ke kusitana nabomakhelwane noma ke nama counterparts ethu ukuthi siphinde sikhone kumbuyisela emuva lo muntu kuyavama ekakhulu kade kulethi ndzaba tekushushumbisa abantu lesikucwayisako nakube kunene ukuthi yonke into lesiyithola etinkundleni tekuxhumana asibe nesiqiniseko sekuthi vele siyiverifyile siyicheckile lapho ingachekwa khona ukuze ukuthi sibe nesiqiniseko sekuthi leyo nto leyo iyaphila noma ayisilo liqiniso.
Mhlawumbe nesingachubekela nje embili kunanaba babejele ngethemba ukuthi nanseni yabati vele ezimaphoyisa labasolo bahlupha siva bashala sive kakhulu kade nje bogogwana bomkhulu babathumela imilayedo bathi bacela babathumelele back imali ngene ngesiphosiso senikhonile ukuthola ukuthi babo bani labantu senikhonile bathola nokuthi vele sebagange bantu labangaki lapha even
dzadzewethu lokho sekucommon njengemkhuhlane kuyinto leseyivame even lonke lendekako losikhuluma nje emacala amaningi kakhulu labikiwe emaphoyiseni alolo hlobo lo lokuganga bantu vele babashayela abantu babatshele noma babathumelele umlayedo mbumbulu lebo kubonakala sengazi ukuthi kunemali la sebabafakele yona bese bacela ukuthi ngicela usibuyisele ngamobile money le mali masinyane bafake ipressure ukuthi sekujahekile noma ke ngisegedeni noma ngijahe kuya kuphi noma ngisesibhedlela le mali bengidzinga masinyane bengiyifakela umuntu logulako lokunjani njani bakufake leyo pressure leyo bese uyesuka wena mhlawumbe awusuyamvela lo muntu uyayigucula le mali vele uyifaka ku mobile money uyamniketa kanti sowusebenzisa imali yakho lesikucela kwesiveni lesitawuhlala lesikucela njalo akuthi nakunemlayedo lo njalo asibe nayo indlela yokuchecka ibalance yethu kuthi ngabe vele kuliqiniso labakushoko singanediswa mhlawumbe ngilomlayedo lesiubonako lapha kule gadget yethu noma kulolicingo lwethu asihlole vele la singahlola khona sibone awu ayima balances awavumi ukuthi le mali ingenile kimi ngumlayedo nje lo lethiwe nekwekuthi ke kunene sihlale sisho ukuthi siyasho futhi ngalokucubekako asetame nokubuka phasi lo mlayedo ungiweni ngani ngekwekuthi siubone na utangenombolo lethide uyabona akusiwo umlayedo mhlawumbe loliqiniso loyo ngoba kusho ukuthi uchamuke enombolweni imessage nje labayakhile base bayiletha kuwe ngekwekuthi bathi kukhona imali lengenile kuwe manenge vele lawo macala awuzathi wethu nekusho ukuthi vele emaphoyisa ayabalandzela ngekusitana nato phela tinkampani leto tetincingo tabo mahlale ekhukhwini tiyakhona kusita bekunene siba trace labo bantu bakhona ukubhekana nemithetho sisa sibatshele bekunene lapho bakhona ukuthi vele ayikho impunga elihlathi info lo indile la emhlabeni uthi uyenda ngebucili iyawudiscover ngilabanye and futhi iphenyo ngilabanye iphinze ikulethe embi kwemthetho sithi asibatshele bekunene impunga elihlathi vele ayikho na kanjani batawubhekana nelaka lomthetho
sekukhona nje lasebaboshiwe nje
kuliqiniso dzadzewethu ukuthi sebakhona noma inombolo tingekho nyalo lengingadisho kodwa bakhona la sebavele babhekene nemthetho kulolu hlangothi lolu singacela singayala ngoba siyathi ukuthi itolo babivile ebunanzi bale mali iqhamuka kulabantu labahluphekile kakhulu kathi abantu labadzala labale emakhaya sithi asibatshele bekunene ukuthi vele na kanjani batawubhekana nelulaka lomthetho futhi siyawuba nebulukhuni kuba release ngebail ngoba sathi kwekuthi batawuphinze bakhomitela ubucala lobo ngakho bekunene asibatshele sibawuhlala ngekhathi bagcoke emfengeni nangabe bachubeka nalomkhuba lonje
ngiyavakala sibonga kakhulu babashele mbukeli sothi vele amaphoyisa sola yachubeka nekwanzisa lwati ngabo bugebengu lobendeka ngetebuchwephesha i-cyber crime sibahlontsha makethe sidabuya sithophisa hlelo
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you'll go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience in the kingdom.
Bongosi basilokhu ngapheli kuyahlola sesifike emaphethelo nehlelo lethu lwalo muhla sesitawuphetha liviki kusasa sethembe ukuthi indawo banathi nakusasa nisale kahle